The Acura RSX is officially back, although it's now completely unrecognizable. Hey, I'm Creech, and this is Creeching Cars. You probably remember the Acura RSX as a fun, relatively cheap sports car from the early 2000s. And if you live outside of the US, this is a rebadged version of the Honda Integra. Honda discontinued the RSX in 2006, but Honda just announced that the RSX will return, this time as a fully electric sports SUV. Well, I'm sure many of you are lamenting the way in which the RSX has returned. First, I want to go over everything we know right now about this new model before I talk more about the situation in general. So, Acura hasn't released a ton of information just yet, but we do know that the RSX will be based on the performance EV concept. This concept debuted a few months ago, and while it's not representative of a specific model, this concept will hang around for the time being to serve as a model of Acura's new EV design language. Acura did release this picture showing a near production prototype of the RSX from the rear quarter angle. And while it is much different from the RSX of old, there are more similarities than you might realize. This new SUV takes the form of the SUV Coupe, as it tends to be called. It does have 4 doors, as you can see, but it maintains that coupe-like silhouette with the hard sloping roofline. Previous RSX had a liftgate, and you will of course find a liftgate on this SUV version. I've never been a huge fan of the SUV coupe body style, but I honestly really like what Acura has done here. The rear light bar looks pretty basic, but outside of that, the car looks really sporty and high-end with the aggressively sculpted body lines and the lip spoiler. There is a vent-like design behind each fender, and while it doesn't appear to be functional from this picture, I think it does look really cool. Unlike Acura's first EV, the ZDX, the RSX features these flush door handles, which are much trendier now with EVs, but I don't mind them here, and I think it helps clean up the design. Acura has kept the front end design a secret for now, but I don't think it will stray too far from what we've seen on the ZDX. Here is the ZDX, and you can see that pentagonal grille and large Acura logo take center stage, although the body color match on the grille lets you know that the vehicle is electric. The actual functional grille sits much lower on the bumper, but I still really like this grille design on the ZDX. I think it looks nice and sporty and aggressive. The RSX should retain Acura's signature jewel eye headlights as well. While we got that glimpse of the exterior, for now we don't know much about the interior design of the RSX, but there will be a major change over the ZDX EV. I'll get to how that works in a second. First, let's look at the ZDX's interior, and I will say this new ZDX and Acura's in general do have good looking interiors. Maybe they're not always filled with the highest end materials, but I think Acura always gets the design itself right. And Acura's designers do a good job of mixing these angular and curved lines to produce an interior that is sporty and engaging. And it is especially refreshing for a vehicle like the ZDX to provide a very driver-centric feel in a world of these bland, boring EVs. I expect the RSX to have a similar looking interior, but that should be pretty much all that's similar, because Honda has confirmed that the new RSX will feature the all-new ASIMO OS, as opposed to the Android-adjacent GM system that is used in the ZDX. Honda unveiled the ASIMO operating system at the recent CES, and Honda has emphasized that ASIMO is more than just an infotainment software, and it really is an operating system for the entire car. With that in mind, I'll go ahead and segue into the mechanical and performance specs that will be underneath the new RSX, because this is all tied into the ASIMO operating system. First of all, the RSX will be the first vehicle produced at the new Honda EV hub. This new facility in Ohio has the express purpose of lessening Honda's dependence on other companies, namely GM, in the realm of EVs. That means there will be significant differences between the RSX and ZDX in terms of what's underneath the body panels. The RSX will be riding on an all-new platform developed in-house by Honda that is specifically designed for the company's new EVs. The goal with this new generation of Honda vehicles is to have all data inputs run through a single highly powerful ECU that has access to every system in the vehicle. Initially, however, and this will be the case with the first model years of the RSX, there will be multiple ECUs that are localized to certain vehicle functions. But like I said, the end goal of ASIMO is a singular unit within the vehicle that can adjust the driving feel, infotainment settings, and virtually all settings inside and out based on the data that has passed through that singular processor. Now, what is that data? Well, it's a combination of the outside settings with the road and temperature and so on, along with the inside settings of how many passengers there are and personalized settings that the driver can set up as to how that driver likes to drive or be transported is more of how Honda is framing it. Honda says this will enable the driver to better choose between an active transportation setting where the driver can enjoy the act of driving with input and feedback from the car, or the driver can select a more passive mode of driving. This mode would allow the driver to focus more on relaxation and entertainment. This is where the RSX aims to set itself apart from the ZDX, especially the ZDX Type S, which has been criticized for its lack of driving feel despite its impressive performance figures. And as you're probably aware, this isn't just a ZDX problem. This is an issue widely reported among fully electric vehicles, and Honda thinks it has something of a solution with this ASIMO system, along with a steer-by-wire system and the suspension system that again are all wrapped into that ASIMO and they're all communicating. So in theory, more enthusiastic drivers can get a better experience. To get into some specific numbers, the base ZDX comes with a single motor providing 360 horsepower, while the Type S has two motors totaling 500 horsepower and enabling a 4.3 second 0 to 60 time. These are healthy numbers, but this is all on a GM platform with GM motors, so we can't really assume too much about the RSX from this ZDX information. Here's my guess for now. I think the base A-spec, as it will be called, RSX, will have one motor on the rear axle, therefore driving the rear wheels, and it will produce about 300 horsepower, maybe 275 on the low end. The more expensive Type S model will add another motor, making the model all-wheel drive and bumping the horsepower up to 450. Also, Honda will likely use permanent magnet motors for this model. That's just my estimation for now, but Honda has confirmed that the RSX is well on its way, and production will begin once the EV hub is ready, and the first RSXs will roll off of the production line before the end of 2025, meaning the first model year should be 2026. The RSX will be smaller and cheaper than the ZDX, although we don't know how much cheaper it will be. I think most RSX models will be in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. This would put the new RSX right in line with competition like the Ford Mach-E and Kia EV6. As with the ZDX, there probably won't be a lot of trim levels or anything super complicated. The ZDX simply has a base model called the A-spec, and then the higher performance model called the Type S, as kind of all Acura high performance models are called. The ZDX base model is about $65,000, the Type S about $75,000. So just to guess, I think the A-spec RSX will be around $40,000, while the RSX Type S will be closer or maybe even a bit over $50,000. So can the new 2026 Acura RSX take on those other sporty electric SUVs? And can it help Honda establish EV credibility alongside its solid range of ICE options? This is explicitly what Honda intends to do, and While the new plant I referred to earlier is called the EV Hub, Honda has also made it clear that the plant is set up to be able to produce fully electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, and pure ICE vehicles. That's because Acura is trying to play it safe after falling into a period of sluggish sales and leases compared to other luxury automakers. A big part of Acura's new strategy is increasing the selection in its lineup so that the new brand can appeal to pretty much all luxury car shoppers, which is why, in addition to this new RSX, there is also the ADX, which is a compact gas SUV coming in the near future. From what we've seen so far, I think the RSX does look like a solid offering, and when executed properly, I think the RSX can compete with the EV6 and Mach-E, which have sold fairly well for their respective brands. And let's take a moment to tie the Mach-E and RSX together, as both of these are going to be electric SUVs that have maybe caused a little bit of a stir given their naming. And honestly, I think it could have been worse. So if you are upset about them calling an electric SUV the RSX, I think just look at it as better than it being called the Integra. I don't know. But this does have some marketing value, as Ford proved with the Mach-E. There are a lot of people who will buy an electric car that has that recognizable name, and that's the reason that Ford went through with calling an electric SUV a Mustang, despite knowing the backlash that would arise. So the Mach-E and the EV6 are definitely those main competitors, but I also think the sporty flair inside and out can definitely set Acura as a brand apart from Tesla, Ioniq, and Polestar, to name a few of these EV companies that just have really boring or kind of appliance-like design. Overall, I'm excited to see how Acura and Honda as a whole handles this expansion. It does look promising, but Honda still has a lot of work to do to actually deliver on these new models. So that's everything we know right now about the all-new 2026 Acura RSX. On this channel, I talk about car news like this, as well as history and culture, so make sure to give the video a like and subscribe so you won't miss any future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.